Hello everyone, and welcome to AustCham Thailand's Business Connections community, our online TV program where we bring you updates from our membership base today from all around the globe. Episode 4 features guests from Singapore, London and Melbourne. Stay with us. For our business section this episode, we welcome Khoon Goh, Head of Asia Research at ANZ Singapore.
Well, the economic contraction that Thailand went through in 2020 was definitely a lot severe than what the economy went through during the global financial crisis. It wasn't as bad as what Thailand faced during the Asian financial crisis in 1998. Thai GDP contracted by 7.6%, whereas in 2020, the Thai economy contracted by 6.1%. It's still a very, very sharp contraction, but at least nowhere near as bad as what was experienced more than 30 years ago. Thai economy is very reliant on international tourism, as you know. Roughly about 15% of GDP is tied to spending by international tourists. And the sad reality is that, particularly given the current wave that we are experiencing, the return or normalization of international tourism is still some way off. Now, we were hoping that it could occur sometime this year, but increasingly it's looking like perhaps it's going to be a 2022 affair. How domestic demand, how consumer spending is going to fare for the rest of this year is largely going to be tied to how the current wave will progress, which in turn will be tied to how governments in Thailand will continue to ease or impose further restrictions. That's just pretty much going to be the key for how domestic demand will evolve this year. Good. So the concern and the worst case scenario is that further mutations might actually see the vaccine not being as effective as what we were initially hoping for, in which case we're just going to see a continuation of this sort of drag, stop-start economic activity. So I think that's the worst case scenario.
In our Connections section today, we welcome Stephen Healy, Managing Director and Founder of Nurture Higher Education Group.
We set up the program 2 years ago. Thailand actually was the first launch point for our partnership with the University of Newcastle. Since the Thailand program started 18 months ago, we're now operating in Indonesia and also this week putting the final touches to an announcement in Vietnam. So it's very much about, the origins in Thailand of what we've created that's really begun to spread. And very much what we're trying to do with the whole project with the University of Newcastle is really drive at its core mission around equity and excellence and creating an innovative program that can allow a whole new generation of talented students obtain an Australian education experience and degree and all the connections that brings without the students necessarily having to go to Australia either because of their personal circumstances or finances. So the programs we're running is a Bachelor of Business from the University of Newcastle. We call it a 2-degree program. So the students actually get 2 transcripts, 2 awards, one from the University of Thai Chamber of Commerce, but also one from the University of Newcastle. So it's not a joint degree with one certificate, or it's not a degree that involves the Australian certificate being issued upon going to Australia. So that's some of the nuance and the uniqueness of what we've been able to bring to the piece. I think we tried to come at the whole program from 2 angles in terms of the benefits for members. One is we wanted to focus on the core mission of equity and excellence. So we wanted to create affordable programs that allowed people to begin the journey for a world-class Australian education, but also we didn't want in any way to drop those standards.
In our community section in this episode, we also say a welcome back to Mandy Oldridge, who is now Principal at PeopleInsight.
But coming back, of course, there are also cultural differences that even though you're sort of aware of them and having worked with different expatriates, it's a very different lifestyle, I think, that I've been used to or Many expats have been used to living in Asia, where often we work very fast and hard, long hours. Whereas, as we all know, Australia has and prides itself on a much more relaxed lifestyle, work-life balance. Australia at the moment is very concerned about mental health. I think also in Melbourne after the lockdown is a very sort of microscope view at the present time about people's mental health, which means that, you know, it makes me think about myself, is that am I, or have I been in the past, a workaholic, and that, you know, maybe we can sort of chill out a little bit more. But at the same time, I think that, well, for me, I love to work and I like to sort of engage and network, and you just got to sort of do maybe things a little bit differently in the way that you run your business, and the way that I can expect people to come back to me. In new environments, in new countries that I've lived in, you know, you won't be successful unless you find out from others. Mm-hmm. So I'm really sort of trying to use those skills in moving forward and sort of developing new networks and friends, I suppose, as well, right. Down at the beach. Some of the guidelines that I would say for any foreigner or expatriate coming home is that take it as a new country, and don't think that it's just an easy settle back in. You need to almost take it as though you're going to a foreign place.